I wanted to try to get to Radiant after quitting for a year to see if I could coach myself back to Radiant and remind myself about the struggles of grinding Valorant. What you don't know is I developed a huge sense of self-doubt after failing to go pro a few years back. This is my way of tackling my fear of failure, and hopefully I don't waste my time and create even more self-doubt. So because I was so excited to start this challenge, I hopped right into the ranked games at the end of the act. And this was probably the worst thing I could have done because no one was trying and I was having the worst games ever. That, and on top of the fact that I couldn't really shoot back, I only ended up winning 3 games and I lost 11. I lacked a ton of confidence, I was filling a bunch, and I didn't really have any mechanics. After this, I knew I had to stick to a warm-up routine, so I made sure I would warm up for 30 minutes every single day before I started playing my ranked games. This proved to be pretty useful because just in the second week of playing, I was able to go from Ascendant 1 to Immortal 1. Now keep in mind this was after placement, so the highest I can place is Ascendant 1, and my MMR was still pretty high, but I was winning more than I was losing, and I actually felt like I could shoot back. Now the problem is, my mental is actually really fragile. Like I was giving up way too quickly. I felt like if I was calming and I was getting ignored, I would just give up. Brandon, can you blind? No. Hello? Blind? Flash? Can I get a flash? Hello? Hello? I'm talking into the void. Oh, now you blind. Now you blind. Bro. Or if I just felt like I was having an off game, it was really hard for me to stay focused. This ends up being a pretty common theme throughout the challenge. So not only was my mental bad, I was struggling with the initiator role, which is going to be pretty common if I'm filling. Now you guys might be asking, why am I filling in the first place? Well, before I quit, I ended up doing the controller to Radiant series, and I was able to get to Radiant playing controller. So my thought process was I might be able to just play support agents while I'm trying to get my mechanics back, and I thought that would be able to impact the game more positively if I was on these support roles because I could leverage my utility usage and my comms. The problem is when I was playing initiator, I was just pretty much only using my utility and treating it as a crutch, and I was getting no kills. So pretty much I would end games with like single-digit kills and maybe get a few assists, but I just wasn't actually having impact with my gun. Fast forward to week 4, where I'm still trying to improve my mental and get my mechanics back. I tried to play Duelist, and unfortunately it didn't work out. This actually might have been the worst day of Valorant I've ever played. I ended up going 0-5 on the day and got humbled pretty quickly, and this destroyed any confidence that I was building up. And I immediately went back to just playing Phil. After that, I decided to take a look at my win rates, and Abyss was a map I was really struggling on. So Abyss being a completely new map for me that I didn't play before, I decided that it would be useful for me to look up some trackers of some players that are actually winning on that map. It turns out that a lot of Sentinel players were winning on this map, so I decided to review Cypher, specifically Hero, on Abyss and try to figure out some setups. And my hope was that since this was my worst win rate map, if I could just improve it a little bit, it would improve my win rate overall and I would slowly climb. And that change, along with me trying to improve my mental and focusing a little bit more and brushing up on my mechanics, I was able to reach Immortal 3 21 days into the challenge. I guess I forgot to mention that the challenge was me playing on Monday through Friday about 4 hours a day. This would include my warm-up, and then also I was coaching on Monday on stream, so it came around to a little less than 20 hours a week. So when I say 21 days into the challenge, it was 21 days of streaming, which, since I wasn't playing on the weekends, came out to about a month. So after hitting Immortal 3, I had some momentum on my side and I actually thought that I would hit Radiant, continuing to fill. I ended up getting to 389 RR 28 days into the challenge. That means that I was only 60 RR off of Radiant. That's pretty much like 3 wins. If I just got 3 wins in a row, I would have hit Radiant. But as you could probably expect, most good things in life, you have to work for them. So I slowly started to lose, and I actually ended up dropping all the way back down to 200 RR. And then I kind of bounced back up to 300, and then this is where I was stuck. I just reached a plateau and it wasn't really anything happening. And for the rest of the act, I was just stuck at 300 RR, like going up and down. I felt like I was kind of going through the motions. I thought I was improving, I was getting some progress, and then it kind of got all ripped away from me. And then the act ended and I was like, okay, I need to figure out what's going on. So that's when I looked at my tracker. And I always like to look at my tracker to figure out my win rates on maps or agents, just so that can help me kind of decide on what I should be focusing my attention on when I'm improving. So it turns out my highest win rate and most played agent this act was Sova. I had 45 matches played on Sova with a 64.4% win rate, which I wasn't really expecting that considering I was struggling on Initiator earlier on. But the thing that surprised me the most is all of the controllers I played had less than a 50% win rate. This was really surprising to me because obviously I played controller before I quit and I was able to get to Radiant on it, so I was like, what's going on here? I think the main reason for this is that the controller meta kind of just shifted. Before I was playing a lot of Viper and Astra, then I eventually picked up Omen when I hit Radiant, but like none of those agents are played anymore. It's just Clove, Clove, Clove. Like that's like the meta controller now. and I just didn't have the game time to confidently pick Clove and then carry a game. I did have some games on Clove that I performed well on, but my most picked controller by far was Omen at 37 games. Okay, so my initiator was good, but my controller wasn't. How was my sentinel, right? I tried to pick Cypher on Abyss. Did that work out? Nope, it was a complete failure. I had 18 games on Cypher and a 33.3% win rate. So that kind of just told me I should just stay away from Sentinel completely. So my game plan going into next act was just to pick Sova and actually maybe even consider playing some Duelist again. So with the new act start, I was resetting all the way back to Immortal 1 20 RR. And at this point, I was feeling kind of demotivated because it was going to take so long to climb back up to Immortal 3 that I worked so hard for a last act. The only thing I was looking forward to was actually the new map pool. They took out Icebox and Lotus and replaced it with Split and Pearl. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of Pearl, but Split was definitely a map that I really loved because I was a Raze main. And because of that, I was actually so confident that when Split popped in the new map, I just insta-locked Raze and I completely destroyed the lobby. Keep in mind that I haven't really played Raze last act. I had 10 games total on Raze last act, and it was pretty early on when I was kind of just feeling things out. So locking in Raze on the first game of Split, I had 1,000 tracker score, match MVPing and going 27 and 14. Later that day, we played Split again and I played Raze, and I had a similar performance going 26 and 15, and we won 13 and 11. Over the next few days, whenever there was a Raze map, I would just insta-lock Raze and I kept winning. I won the next 5 games that I played Raze on. So far I had 7 wins and 0 losses on Raze, and my confidence was through the roof. And I quickly got Immortal 3 back just 4 days after the new act, and at this point we're day 49 into the challenge. But if there's anything I've learned so far is that momentum doesn't last forever. I thought everything was on the uptrend and I was going to rank up continuously, and maybe this would be my chance to get to Radiant. But oddly enough, as soon as I hit Immortal 3, I just hit a wall. I was de-ranking back to Immortal 2, ranking up to Immortal 3, I was just hovering in that 200 RR range. And this lasted for a whole week. Day 49 to day 56. And again, keep in mind, that's almost 2 weeks for me because I only play on the weekdays. I was questioning everything. My mental was like pretty burned out. I thought if I just played more games, I would be able to just maintain consistent Immortal 3. And I felt like my mental and my focus was just slipping away. It wasn't as focused and dialed in like I was early on in the grind. I was getting extremely frustrated and I was like, something has to change. So I kind of took a look at what was going on and I realized that I wasn't really focused. I decided to stop duo queuing and I needed to lock in. I needed to play with high intensity. I was able to find the quote from the stream that I'll just put here to show you where my headspace was at. I was reflecting on stream yesterday how like I haven't been trying in my games, like playing with high intensity. And even when I duo queue, I'm like not farming as much and trying to win as much as I was before. So I feel like I need to find that again. And after making this realization that I wasn't really trying in my games, I ended up going 4-1 on the day, winning 2 Raze splits and 2 games on Sova. So I ended up jumping up from 179 RR to 259. The next day we also had a winning day where I had 3 wins and 2 losses, and I only lost on Abyss and Pearl. Since I finally had some self-awareness and kind of pulled myself out of that autopilot mode, I decided to check my win rate on all the maps. And looking back at it, it was kind of obvious, but my Sunset, Bind, and Split were really strong because they were Raze maps. And I was also really confident on Haven because that was my highest win rate map last act at 62.5. So pretty much that only leaves 3 maps in the pool that I had to work on: Abyss, Ascent, and Pearl. Easy enough, right? I could figure out 3 maps. That should be fine. The problem is, I ended up getting sick. I don't know what it was because I never actually got it checked, but I lost my voice completely and I had to cancel the stream on Monday. And I was worried I would lose my momentum from earlier because I was just able to get out of my rut of autopiloting and finally had some awareness in my games again. But I ended up not having to worry about that at all because on the Tuesday stream back, even though I wasn't able to talk that much, we ended up winning all 4 games. So you know how earlier I said I was going to be playing Cypher on an Abyss? Well, with this act, I was pretty much just playing Sova on all of the maps that I wasn't playing Raze on, and I ended up winning on Abyss playing Sova. It helped that I actually took a look at some VODs of how these pros were playing Sova and figured out a playstyle that would work for me. And then the next 2 maps, I got Pearl, and this was like, man, today is just not giving me a good map pool. Playing Abyss and Pearl, 2 of my worst maps so far, but I was able to win those games as well because I decided to fill Killjoy and Pearl, but I actually took the time to watch some pro VODs and actually learned how to play Killjoy on Pearl. Now, I didn't really carry the game on Pearl, but I was doing my job, in air quotes, as Killjoy, and it was more than enough to get me over the line. And then I ended that day with the 26-19 match MVP win on Raze Bind. You know, my Raze has just been really killer this act. 2 days later, I have 2 of the back-to-back worst Raze games I've ever played. 6 kill games. So I went 6-16 and 6-18 on both Split and Bind. And just like that, I was humbled. And I was just like, what is going on? I lost all my confidence and I didn't really know what to do. But I decided not to overthink it. I didn't want to go into a spiral. I was like, maybe I just had an off day, like it's fine. Over the course of the next few days, I'm just win losing, and then the weekend came and I was able to reset. And on Tuesday of the next week, I ended up getting a 4-win streak. And that was with me not really playing that much at all. But I ended the day with 446 RR. I was 4 points off of Radiant at day 63. At this point, my mental and my approach to the game was actually really healthy, I think. I wasn't really too focused on the outcome. I was kind of just focusing on the things that actually allowed me to play well. So making sure I was calming, making sure I had high energy and I was eating before the stream so I wasn't hangry. And maybe most importantly, I was playing with intensity. So if I was tilting, I would try to reset myself. But like my mindset was completely different than earlier in the challenge and just throughout the challenge. And me knowing myself a little bit more, I was like, okay, I'm 4 RR off. I could try to play one more and go for Radiant today, or I'll just reset, try again tomorrow, and if I get it, I get Radiant. If I don't, that's fine. We just keep the grind going. But I wasn't really that focused on the outcome of the games anymore. I mean, we can't force it, chat. We have to, okay, let's go ahead and accept the outcome of worst case scenario. Let's say we play 5 games and we lose all 5. It's okay. It's completely okay. We have to accept that. We have to accept the worst before we can move forward. We can lose all 5 games and it's okay. So I go into tomorrow refreshed. I'm 1 win off of Radiant and I pop Pearl. I'm just thinking to myself, do I fill? Do I fill on my rank up game? I mean, it was working before, but I decided to actually lock in Phoenix on my rank up game because I wanted to be the difference maker to get that rank back. Looking back at it, this might have been a dumb decision because I haven't played Phoenix pretty much at all throughout this entire climb. I probably have like 3 games on Phoenix or something. But I had a little bit of experience playing Phoenix before on Pearl, and I was watching some pros play it, and I was like, okay, I could probably do this. And my chat wasn't really believing in me. They're like, this guy just locked in Phoenix. Like, there's no way he's gonna do this. But my comms were good, my teammates were vibing out, and we ended up winning the game 13-6. So after 64 days of streaming and playing ranked, I finally got Radiant. And normally, I don't really react to the outcomes of the game that much, especially with my mental being how I was towards the end. I was kind of just accepting it. But after hitting Radiant, I felt a huge relief, and I'm so glad I was able to hit it. Oh my god, we're back! We're back! It took me 64 days to get Radiant back, chat. 64 days! 64 days. Holy shit. All of that self-doubt, that fear of failure that was kind of building up over the years, I was able to prove to myself and to you guys that I can get back to Radiant. It was still early on in the stream, so I ended up playing 2 more games to prove that I was still a Radiant player, and we ended up winning both, and I ended up peaking at 503 RR. I feel like I learned so much about myself throughout this challenge, and I feel like I was reminded a lot about what was important during the climb. One of the big ones is it takes a lot of time to pursue your goals and to achieve your goals. So even though it was 64 days into the challenge, it was pretty much 3 months because I wasn't playing on the weekends. So in a way, it took me 90 days. That's 3 months, guys. That's a quarter of the year. I went into this challenge thinking I would be able to get it within a month. And was I wrong? It took me 3 months to get back. I feel like some other important lessons from this was that you have to have confidence in yourself, but you also need to be keeping your mental in check, because every single time I was taking my foot off of the gas pedal, it would kind of just go south. You have to keep playing your games with intensity, and you know, it is easier said than done, but every single time I reminded myself, play with intensity, play with some energy to actually want to win and improve, it ended up coming true. That, and of course, going back to my roots and playing my comfort agent on Raze. So looking back at the stats after hitting Radiant, I had 30 matches on Raze with a 76.7% win rate at a 1.19 KD. And surprisingly, I had 29 games on Sova, but actually a 48% win rate. So I actually didn't even have a positive win rate on Sova despite the performance last act. Honestly, I'm not really sure what that was, but you know, maybe it was because I was playing Sova on my worst maps like Pearl and Abyss, and it just was kind of reflecting there. But it goes to show that comfort is king, and you should be playing the agents that you really enjoy and finding a playstyle that works for you. Now that I've reached Radiant, what's next? Well, now it's my job as a coach to help you guys improve. So I'll be pivoting and not playing the game and going back to focusing on the YouTube and the coaching, which I guess is where I should say join the Discord if you want more details to get coached by me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and it resonated with some of you guys, and who knows, maybe I'll do this all over again in a year to try to get back to Radiant. Thanks for watching.